Welcome back to Only Talk Sports, where we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. Subscribe to the channel for more sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, college football this Saturday's starting out, and there's a lot of blowouts. But one blowout in particular really just perturbs me. Oklahoma won at Nebraska 49-14. And why does this matter? This game doesn't really matter because of the fact Oklahoma, they're a top 10 team. Nebraska is a dumpster fire. But Nebraska, they fired Scott Frost. And Scott Frost notoriously is known as the guy that couldn't win a game. He couldn't close out a game. All the losses were close. They barely lost games. They couldn't figure out a way to win. They were all one-score losses. But they just got floored 49-14 to Oklahoma. They just got destroyed. They couldn't throw the football. Casey Thompson only had 129 yards, and he had a touchdown, and then they brought in the backup when the game was out of reach, and he threw a pick. They only had 163 yards on the ground. Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel had 2 touchdowns. He threw over 200 yards. The backups played. They threw one of their backups threw a touchdown. And basically, they ran all over him. They threw all over him, and it's just sad because, again, Nebraska football, I wasn't really alive that much when they were really good when, obviously when Tom Osborne was there in the 90s and the 80s, and they were just fantastic. But even Kirk Herbstreit was saying, Bo Pelini was 9-4 and 10-3, whatever, for Nebraska, and Nebraska fans were upset. And I understand, you want to be at the top of college football, you want to be winning championships and your conference championships and all that stuff. I understand you're a proud program, but now you can't even make a bowl game. And you fire Scott Frost. And I know why you fire Scott Frost, because Scott Frost was terrible. He was 16-32 as a head coach. He was losing all these close games. But you fire him, and you just did even worse. And I know you can't blame Mickey Joseph. He's just the interim coach. It's not his fault. And I understand, like I said, you can't blame Mickey Joseph. You can't really blame the players. Everything's in disarray. But you just fired Scott Frost to get even worse. And if Nebraska doesn't hire a great coach, what are they going to do? And this is not even really a recap of this game anyway. This is just more me talking about how Nebraska needs help. Nebraska is in a state of affairs at this point where the program is so unattractive that it's going to be very hard for Nebraska to bring any coaches in. I thought they said Mark Stoops of Kentucky. Mark Stoops is not going to Nebraska. Nebraska at this point, and I'm sorry, Nebraska fans, but your school is not as attractive as Kentucky football is at this point. Why would Mark Stoops go from Kentucky to Nebraska? It's kind of like, I hate using the comparison, but to me, Indiana basketball and Nebraska football are very similar schools. They both were great until around 2000, and they both have fallen off a cliff. In Indiana, when Archie Miller got fired, and I know this is a football video, when Archie Miller got fired in Indiana, they were like, get Chris Beard from Texas basketball, get Brad Stevens from the Celtics. They're not going to Indiana. Indiana has fallen too far for a coach of that caliber to go to Indiana, and that's why they got Mike Woodson. But going back to Nebraska, you're not going to get Mark Stoops. You're not getting him. And Matt Campbell at Iowa State, that's a possibility and all that. But again, all these coaches, why would you want to go to a school that is just a mess? You have players, Casey Thompson. I don't understand why Nebraska can't win. Casey Thompson's a good quarterback. They've got players. It's just not working out. Same thing with Adrian Martinez. Whatever happened when Adrian Martinez was the quarterback in Nebraska, they'd always find a way to lose. But now instead of barely losing, you just got floored. And I know you're not supposed to maybe expect to beat Oklahoma, but if you're Mickey Joseph, you would think you'd be able to get your players ready to possibly beat your biggest rival, even though you guys don't play this game anymore because the Big 12, Oklahoma is still in the Big 12. They're going to be going to the SEC, and obviously Nebraska left the Big 12 and is now in the Big 10. But that was an historic rivalry game. Mickey Joseph played in the game. He was the former Nebraska quarterback, just like Scott Frost, and it's just very sad to see Nebraska at this lowest point. It's going to be very hard for me to envision any coach wanting to go there. They're in shambles. They're not playing good in any game. Their next game is against Indiana, and you would really hope for Nebraska fans that they can beat Indiana because, Indiana's starting out 3-0, but Nebraska's 1-3. They have a bye week. But again, I don't really know what you can call this video. This is just a video of me talking about how bad a shape Nebraska football is in. It's going to be very hard for me to envision what kind of coach would want to go there because of the shape that they're in. Scott Frost, I'm not saying that they would have done better in this game if he was the coach, but they did even worse. You can guarantee to me if Scott Frost was the coach, they lose by less. And I know a loss is a loss, but to me, losing by one score, at least it shows your program's trying. You just got destroyed. I'm not blaming Mickey Joseph, but again, Nebraska's in shambles. I feel bad for Nebraska fans, but firing Scott Frost did not help him in this game. It might maybe in the future will help him out if they can get a new coach that wants to be there, but they need to get a good coach, and to me, it's going to be very hard for me to see Nebraska finding a way to get a coach to come. I mean, I understand money talks. If Nebraska can fork out the money and they got a lot of money, but again, Nebraska should not be in this bad of shape. They have the resources, they have the fan support, they have the players. They just need the coach, and whatever the case may be, Scott Frost ain't it, and it's not Mickey Joseph, and hopefully they can find a coach somewhere that will help them out. But again, good win for Oklahoma. Oklahoma played fantastic. Oklahoma could potentially be a playoff team. Who knows in Brent Venables' first season as coach, but Nebraska is just in shambles. They've fallen off a cliff. They're not playing good at all, and hopefully the new coach can figure it out because they're in bad shape right now, and I feel really bad for Nebraska fans, but they got to really, really find a way to fix this problem that they have because they're just getting worse and worse for Nebraska. Subscribe to the channel for more sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Nebraska and their football situation right now, and I will see you next time.